Hello ladies and gentlemen, Willie here. Why is it that big, well-funded MMORPGs with talented developers involved seem to struggle again and again? What is the MMORPG failure format? Well, TLDR, overly ambitious projects that were outdated before their ideas can fully come to life, being pushed to release by publishers, worried that it's going to be another project throwing money into an endless pit and wanting to recoup some costs and move on. Well, either that's the case or the game manages to escape this fate and push on to be a success, but in recent years it's proving more and more of a challenge. The other day I came across a rather interesting post by Stephen Frost going over the internal monologue of MMO development cycles. He was the lead on WildStar, by the way, which as we all know did not go too well in the end. For what it's worth, I played that game since the beta stage and it's been one of my favourite projects which has unfortunately failed in time. It had issues, both unintentional, like performance that made my laptop at the time sound like an Airbus taking off, and intentional, such as creating an MMO saying it's going to be hardcore, it being hardcore, and turns out not many players actually wanted hardcore, and bugs, and the PvP was an absolute indistinguishable mess of red lines on my screen. But no, it was good, it just had problems, too many problems, and that now seems to be the norm. I guess the post that Stephen made will be in some ways a bit of a internal monologue of how things went during his time at WildStar, but a lot of it is relatable and sounds familiar, particularly when looking at a certain game from Amazon at the moment. So let's get stuck in. First of all, step 1, making an MMO. This will be painful and it will change for 4 to 6 years if it's not cancelled. This period of time is filled with lofty ideas that are difficult to prove out without lots of systems working together, and then sometimes they aren't fun and you burn it. It's not that to say it isn't possible to find fun in a shorter amount of time, but it's really hard. There's also a ton of tech needed during this period and it needs to support loads of players doing lots of actions at once, not easy or cheap, plus it'll be reworked later. Looking in as a layman to the MMO development cycle, it always seemed that they are vastly complicated to set up in a way which engages a variety of players acting in a world at the same time, whilst offering enough for them to do between combat, crafting, PvP, PvE, and of course not just being WoW clone number 342b. Imagine an MMO player back in vanilla World of Warcraft in 2004. Where would they have thought the MMO genre would be at by now compared to where we are, what with classic TBC just having relaunched recently, and the best bit of content in Shadowlands for retail is looking like a copy-paste of poorly scaled Mage Tower from 2 expansions ago. The further we seem to reach, the further away the studio gets to truly being able to sit down and take the time, care and effort to deliver on the vision, which is why a game like Ashes of Creation is giving the MMO fans a big old dose of hopium, myself included. Moving on though, Stephen goes on to say, you think this could be good actually, and then another MMO comes out and has some feature you've been trying to get out, and now you need to evolve it more because you won't launch for another 3 years. Now it's getting ready for alpha and an announcement comes out about the game. MMO content creators are excited, a respite from WoW. There are some folks that get real hyped about the game and make new channels, get followers, and get people generally talking about it. More people check out their channels and they build a following. This right here is what I talked about in a video not so long ago, the content creation boom surrounding a new title being announced. It's much more so the case for MMORPGs, as they will be updated regularly if they are successful, and they can then provide content and things to make videos on for many years to come. This is different from your single player releases, as if they are successful, they get DLCs or eventually sequels. Even then, it can be hard to get enough stuff to make content about. See practically every single Dark Souls YouTuber ever for this. But for single players, the big content drops come once per several years, not per month, as it is with MMOs. This is why content and MMOs seem to always go hand in hand. Meanwhile, he goes on to say the dev team is still making a crazy amount of leveling content while having to fix the issues in alpha. The goal is to have endgame content, but the team has so much stuff they promise to the publisher and community, they're trying to get all that stuff in as pressure on devs mounts up. Here's where it seems to be the turning point, the beginning of the end, the hurdle that's going to be pushed forward and will have to be overcome before the game hits public and is live. He goes on then to talk about delays in funding, and that more recently people are understanding of delays in the gaming sphere, even to the point of delays having changed from being a frustration to actually a positive. Well, for some people anyways, a delay usually is interpreted as A, the game isn't ready, B, the studio is willing to take the risk and extra costs associated with doing this, and C, it should being the key word here, be an objectively better game coming out the other side. Moving on, he says things are improving, the beta is looking better, people are happy with the changes, but it's still not in a place where it's ready to launch. People voice concerns, but for the 2 weeks they played, they like it. The dev team knows there's still some stuff to do and fix, and it still hasn't got any endgame content, but they said they would know it's a thing. They need more time, but it's been 4 to 7 years by this point. Not many publishers have the stomach to keep delaying. Did you know New World was first set to release in May 2020? You'd think, having spent such a massive amount of time and money, that you would be more open to ensuring the end result is good as it possibly can be. But here's why that's not often the case, as coming to the end of a beta phase now with pushed back issues and deadlines not being met, delays have set more finances into commitments than was ever planned, as the scope of what needs to be finished is clearly wildly out of proportion. The players know it needs more time, the developers know it needs more time, but the strain of the publisher is really showing. They need the bottom line met and some return on investment for over half a decade and millions of dollars spent. And so the game launches. And here's where Steven puts it as, now comes the part where everybody is scared shitless. Your game has gone live, you know the leveling is good, you know the world is good, but there are more bugs because of the influx of players. Hype is winding down. Players want things fixed, bugs, server issues, endgame, tuning, class balancing. And the next sentence definitely made me think of New World. The dev team now has to shift to a live development cadence. This is different and takes some time to getting used to, i.e. messing up and solving problems, and patience is tested. But the first month is enjoyable and the money is coming in. The issue is once people get invested, they start poking holes in the fabric of the game and find out what a mess it's in, especially when they power level to endgame in the space of that month, thanks to the ruthless efficiency the internet offers to the hardcore player. He says player counts are dropping even with improvements trickling in. Devs notice about the frustrations and are working hard to fix it. Player counts are dropping, a new patch with content is coming up, the new patch comes out, bug fixes, a new zone, balance changes, it barely increases logins. New World 1.1 had one of the lengthiest patch notes I've ever seen in anything ever. It increased peak logins for the space of a week, after which they just kept dropping per usual by the next Monday. Moving on, he says content creators are getting frustrated and can't cover the game anymore because the clicks aren't there. It's just business, I love the game, but I need eyes to make cash. I like to believe there's more to content creation than to churn out videos to get eyes from hype, and that some channels are out there which really do want to give honest feedback and not just constantly slam something. I attempt to be in that category because, as we'll talk about in a moment, negativity nearly always generates more interest. Moreover, hopping from one game to another on hype is exceptionally difficult to pull off for any amount of time. In fact, you'd just be better covering an evergreen game like Minecraft, Pokemon, or seemingly anything anime related. And the final step, he says videos start coming out talking about the murder, death, kill of X game. These get a lot of clicks. The game is improving. More devs leave, the team who knew how to make the game is either burned out or gone, either the game recuperated and profited enough that a team can be funded to make the game better and keep the player base engaged, or it will be sunset in 6 months. A new MMO is announced, time is a flat circle, and it all repeats again. And it's true what he mentioned in the final bit, negatives get more interest than positives. This is why you find many more reviews online which are negative, or on videos, forums, Reddit, and so on. It stands out much more to us than positives. Thank you, evolution. And negativity is something as a whole which in the MMO sphere is extremely pervasive, and in part it comes from player experience of what a dev cycle, like the one we've just went over, leaves us with. Where else do you find somebody who's done something for 300 hours in the space of 1 month and ends up thinking it's awful? But that's it, the bad experience at the end, the tipping point of what stops somebody from wanting to log in again. Imagine you go to a 3-hour movie, it's amazing, incredible, the best thing you've seen all year, easily. But at the end they pull it and then he woke up and it was all a dream. And it's just such a poor and lazy ending to such a brilliant movie. Do you leave the cinema thinking, wow, I sure had fun and got my money's worth for a good 2 hours and 50 minutes? Or do you think, what the hell was that ending? That was terrible. And this video wasn't designed to be about any specific MMO either, but the timeline Steven has gone over is shockingly similar in a kind of predict the future way of what we've currently seen at New World. So I think it deserves some merit based off of that, even if there are some points that you don't agree with. It's not like Amazon is afraid of throwing money at something until options are exhausted though. Crucible anyone? The Lord of the Rings MMO? We'll see if New World is able to make that 6-month mark, or whether it looks like another money pit. If anything, this is why when big studios do big projects involving big publishers, the funds are there, the skill is there, the talent is there, but often the time isn't. And time and again, something amazing is hamstrung and leads us with another disappointment, another negative memory, and another set of YouTube videos titled The Murder, Death, Kill of X Game. That's about all I've got for you guys today. Let me know your thoughts. As always, thank you so much for watching and listening in, and I shall see you all in the next one very soon.